Charles here from TMZ. You like lawsuits? Justin Baldoni very clearly does, because as promised, he has filed yet another lawsuit in this ongoing battle over It Ends With Us and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and now Taylor Swift is also mentioned in this nearly 200-page lawsuit that he filed. And we went through all of that. You don't need to read all of it because we did, and we're going to tell you all the highlights because this is, wow, some real big stuff here. Now, how Taylor Swift gets involved? Well, one of the things, basically Justin's lawsuit that he has filed, Justin and his production company, Wayfarer Studios, have filed this lawsuit against Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and also Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, for a whole slew of things. By the way, he wants no less than $400 million. Now, here's how Taylor Swift comes into it. He is not suing Taylor Swift, but I think he understood that mentioning Taylor would get it a lot more attention. So he talks about when they were making the film, before they had started filming, they were talking about the script. And there's a very key scene, if you've seen the movie, where the main characters meet, where Blake Lively and Justin's characters meet on the rooftop. He says that Blake decided to do a rewrite of the scene, and they were having a meeting to discuss that. So Justin goes over to Blake and Ryan Reynolds' New York City penthouse, and they are having this meeting. Ryan is there the whole time. Justin doesn't say that he has any issue with that, but Ryan is there singing the praises of his wife's work. So this is great. And Justin says, I hear you. And a couple hours into the meeting, boom, Taylor Swift pops in. Of course, Taylor, BFF of Blake's. And Taylor says, oh my God, I loved it. This is great. It's amazing. She puts in her 2 cents. And Justin says in the lawsuit, he understood what this meeting was all about. And he actually describes it now as more of an ambush. But the point was, Blake's in control here, and you better do things the way Blake wants it done. And he seems in the lawsuit to say that he was going to go along with that. He understood that he was up against a lot here, so he said, fine, we'll go along with it. And he texts, this is really great. I got to grab this here. Hang on. So after the meeting, he texts Blake to say, love the script, and I actually loved it even before you had Blake and before you had Ryan and Taylor throw their input into this whole thing. He said, I loved it. So Blake responds, and he includes the text message in the lawsuit. She makes a Game of Thrones reference. She says, this is her texting Justin. If you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones, you'll appreciate that I'm Khaleesi. And like her, I happen to have a few dragons, for better or worse, but usually for better, because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So really, we all benefit from these gorgeous monsters of mine. You will too, I can promise you. So yeah, Taylor Swift is a dragon, and so is Ryan Reynolds. Beyond that, it goes into a lot of things that we've heard in the other lawsuits about battling for control of the movie, the fact that the Sony Studio said, fine, we'll do 2 movies. We'll cut 2 versions of the film, Blake's version and Justin's version. Remember, he's the director. The agreement, Justin says in the lawsuit, the agreement was whichever one tested better, that's the one they would go with. He says his version actually tested significantly better than Blake's version, and yet they ended up going with Blake's version because Blake told Sony, if you don't use my version, I'm not going to promote the film. And so, according to Justin, Sony had to give in, and he's clearly not happy about this. He describes it as having to fire himself off the movie because he was the director, but now they weren't using the director's cut of the film. There is a lot of bad blood here. He also goes into Leslie Sloan, the publicist for Blake, saying that once everything started to blow up when the movie came out and there was all this public backlash against Blake, that Leslie Sloan and Blake engaged in this smear campaign against him so that she could seem like the martyr and he could seem like the real life villain. And he goes into all the details of that. There are text messages, many of which we've seen in the lawsuit that Justin has already filed against the New York Times for $250 million. It's a lot of money here, and a lot of people involved. So How this one turns out, whether it actually ends up in court, my guess is no. But yes, another lawsuit filed, and I suspect there are still more to come in this ongoing battle between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. We will have it for you when it comes down.